Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back for another Wednesday episode. As always, I'm excited about today's topic. I actually have 7 mistakes, but we don't want to be here all day. So, we're going to talk about the top 3 mistakes, and I'm going to tell you how you can get access to hearing the other 4 mistakes you want to make sure that you're not making as you move into this corporate contract space or even expand if you're a veteran. These things, as I mentioned in the training, the full training that I do on this, can be mistakes even a veteran like me have fell into at one point or another. So, as always, if this is your first time joining me, I was trying not to be too loud. My toddler is taking his nap, which is what I typically like to do when I come and talk to y'all so that we can be, fully uninterrupted. So let me bring it down just a little bit. My name is Kirsten Allen, and as you can see, there. I am a corporate contract strategist, which is essentially a fancy, nice way of saying that I have built a career around landing B2B contracts. I have sold for one of the largest tech companies in literally the world, a international Fortune 500 company, worked my way up the corporate ladder, so to speak. Decided that I needed a change back in 2021. At that time, I made a shift into B2B marketing. I wanted to continue to extend my knowledge in this space by doing on the job training. And then also, I recognized personally, I wanted more time with my son that I had just had in 2020. They were talking about going back to traveling before the pandemic. I was doing a lot of traveling in the current role that I had at that time, meeting customers, C-suite level, doing presentations and roadmap calls and understanding their pain points and putting together proposals for them, all the things. And that travel, while I took the job because I wanted to get more out of my comfort zone with doing consistent flying, because I've been flying since I was a kid, but still had experienced some anxiety around it as an adult. So I wanted to get over that. I wanted to obviously build my skill set and just see what it was like to have a traveling role. Realized it wasn't for me. I like to travel for fun, not for work. So anyway, 2021, when they were talking about getting back into travel, I'm like, I have my son here. It's still kind of crazy right now. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. So I knew I had to make a shift. In that shift, still, like I said, switch jobs into B2B marketing, which is what I do today, still, in the space, in the trenches. I also started my business. Now, to be 100% transparent with you guys, and this is not a part of the training, but giving you context, when I first started my business, it was not in this space, right? I actually, because I had made that shift, I had a little bit of trauma around it. Going back into that space, being a mom now, just all the things, I just felt misaligned in that particular role. And so when I left behind all of the good things that I had developed, all the skill sets. I just kind of closed the door on it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I didn't like kind of the way that it ended for me, and I'm just done. So it was not all rainbows and roses by any stretch of the imagination, but coming out of it and looking back, I'm like, oh, I totally get why I was in those spaces. It helped me be able to be here today. Had I not stuck it out, had I not, again, hit my head against the wall 1,000 times, as I've said before, I did not do everything right. There was actually a time where I was at risk of being on what they call a performance plan. So I went through it. It was not just climbing straight up the ladder and all the things and all the contracts. No, it was a learning curve. I had to learn things about myself. Like I said, there was times where I was at risk of getting, on the naughty list, so to speak, on the chopping block, all the things. And even as I shifted out, again, it was a moment in time for me to decide what was for me. And because of where I was as a mom and all the things, I decided to make that shift, and that was no longer a space for me. So I say all that to say, after starting my business, it wasn't around this. It was literally what I was doing. I was kind of like an influencer agent, which if you've been around me for any number of months, years, whatever, you'll see that my original company name was the K Allen Agency. Why? Because I was representing influencers. I was helping them to get deals with brand deals and deals with companies, which again, everything just aligned so well because that was corporate partnerships. That's why I was attracted to that, because that was all I had ever known. And so that was the first iteration. Then I kind of started dipping into marketing and sales just to grow your business in general, because I have a marketing degree. I have a sales background. Like, these are real things. I didn't just pop up overnight and try to, teach these things. I'm like, oh, okay, these are the same principles of why I was successful as a entrepreneur or a salesperson. And, the things that I've been able to execute in my career, it can just translate. And so there kind of worked, but didn't really stick because it wasn't specific. It was too waffly. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with someone that I was working with at the time, and it all like started to come back to me. All the things that I had done in that past life, as we often will say, started to come back. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this again, but I can reclaim this as my own. It doesn't have to be what they tried to get me to do or the box that they tried to put me in. Y'all, I'll tell you, when I left, I actually didn't plan to leave the job. I wanted to shift into another role. And I remember them saying, well, we need you here. Like, we need you in this role. And I was like, oh, okay, bet. So one thing about me, if my values and your values are misaligned, then I'm over here. Like, I'm already gone. I'm not someone that's like, okay, I'm just going to stick it out and work. No, if it just doesn't align, I have to go. So we're going to have to get into that story another day. I want to let y'all know the real on that. But anyway, we're getting into the topic, I promise. As I shifted into business side and started thinking about all these things that I could buy, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars of contracts, literally day in and day out doing this work, I'm like, there's got to be a way that I can use this. So then I began to just start briefly talking about it and see kind of, what people were saying. And all of a sudden it was this overwhelming response of how more entrepreneurs wanted to know how they can get into corporate. And I'm like, okay, we have something here. Like, this is something that was simple for me. And I actually closed the door on because I thought that chapter was done. And lo and behold, it was the basis or opportunity for all this amazing work that I get to do, and where I was stifled or put in a box or, stressed out, to be quite honest. I've reclaimed those things and now turned it into this amazing business where I get to do what I really love, which is teach, support, create partnerships and bridges between the people who think the access isn't there for them and those who actually need the expertise of small business owners. So I say all that to say, through that experience, I have learned so many mistakes that I've had firsthand. Again, not perfect at this at all. Expertise, yes, but through trial and error, through hitting my head against the wall, through tears and wanting to throw in the towel several different times, and ultimately having to transition out, all to come back and say, here's how this can work for more entrepreneurs in their business. So that feels so good to say. It's so freeing. And I love whoever's still here paying attention to this, to hear this story, because I think it's important. Yes, we talk about all the strategies and tactics. And as I've shared, I don't know, in this video, I do a lot of video content, but maybe you'll be seeing this again somewhere. But it's the tactics and strategies are great. I do have some good stealthy things that I've come up with, or ways that I have gotten into organizations that are proprietary to me and my experience. But generally speaking, growing a business, how to do it, like all of those things are just very surface level. You can find those things typically anywhere. what is truly differentiating what I do in the world is about my actual lived experience. And so you'll see me incorporating more of that into the content because that's what's really going to be the difference for you guys. And those are the things that I would pay attention to as I've been developing and growing in this area. I pay more attention to who the person has had to be throughout their journey versus all the tactics and strategies. Because I've seen both sides. I can give all the strategies and tactics, even the things that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. And there's going to be a difference. There's going to be people who take it and soar because they understand how to be. And then there's going to be people who take it and continue to hit a wall because they don't do anything different internally, how they're showing up, getting clarity, all the things. They're just trying to do whatever they can do to get the result. And that just simply doesn't work. So I want to be real with y'all on that. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into these 3 mistakes. So the first one that I want to share with you today, and I believe I've talked about this in different trainings, but it bears repeating because it happens too often. So we want to make sure that we're not falling into this trap. The first thing is being priced too low. Okay. Now, when we're talking about pricing in the corporate landscape, couple of things to think about with the pricing piece. Belief shift. We might think, oh, if we charge a lower price, they'll be more apt to say yes. And then we can, go ahead and just get our foot in the door at this price point and it's going to be all good to go. The thing about it is our vantage point of low prices or affordable is completely different from what that looks like within corporations. I know most people in America or wherever you are don't operate from a strict budget. Some people do. Most people do not operate, I feel, from a strict budget where it's like, I have this and once this is gone, that's it. Most of us are like, okay, we might have a budget, but we got something else that we can pull from, you know what I'm saying, if need be to get the things that we want. That's just how we're operating. Or we'll go out here as business owners, make the money that we need to make. If you're, just an individual without a business, you might borrow the money, whatever the case may be. We typically can be a little bit more creative. Companies have budgets. So every quarter, every year, and I just got through not a budget conversation, but just a quarterly review cycle. And there are these conversations on what do we need to allocate? What do we need to do? These things are forward planning. This is why I don't want to get too off track, but this is why I also share with you guys how to be and how to think, because most people might be telling you, the internet, 6-figure contracts, all these things, You have to understand how to be and how to move and how to think about this, because those things don't just happen overnight. These are things, anytime a company is spending that much money, any organization spending that much money, this is something that they've planned for a year or more in advance to allocate and do. And so it's important for us, again, in our own expertise and understanding this process, that we don't wait around. I get some people asking, well, when's the best time to start this process? The best time to start the process is now, because the process is not about just showing up today and saying, hey, come buy my stuff. The process starts way before that in an amazing thing that we call relationship building. And so through that relationship building, that's when you begin to position yourself for some of those prime opportunities that, again, they're budgeting a year in advance out. It's not just they wake up today and decide they want to hire someone to come and do financial wellness training. It's typically something that they have planned for. So now is always the best time, because you could start to build those relationships and understand what the future looks like for these organizations and how you all can partner together on those future priorities. So pricing too low is the original mistake that I shared, but also the caveat too with this pricing too low piece is really discounting the entire process, from where you're priced to how you're positioned to even how you begin these relationships. So if we think about what's the whole premise of working with corporations, real quick, before we get into the next mistake, the whole premise of working with corporations, yes, it's great to have a nice, Amazon logo or whoever logo. By the way, Let me tell y'all this because I don't want y'all getting in trouble. Typically, when you do business with these organizations, you have to get approval to be able to use their logo, their marketing materials, and all those things on your website. So make sure, not judging anyone, as you're putting these companies that you're working with, that you have their approval to be able to share that. That's a side note, just something to keep in mind. I don't see enough people talking about it. But anyway, so back to my point. It's great to have these logos that we put on our website, and we've worked with this person and that person and that person. But what's the real goal? The real goal for me, and what I hope is for you and for anyone definitely working with us, is that we want to increase our impact. We want to be able to, of course, have a good foundation of revenue, but it's not just about the money. It's not just about the money. It's about the impact. It's about the value that you're creating. It's about turning something that you may be doing one-on-one in a small group, your same programs, your workshops, all of those things, taking it onto a scale that can now be in front of thousands of people, that can now impact the movement of millions or even billions of dollars. The more value you create, the more abundance is attracted to you. And so that's the whole premise to me of doing corporate contracts. That being said, when we're thinking about our overall process and understanding where we fit into this, it's not just land a contract here or there. We're actually doing some things on the back end to really start to carve out our place in the market, that it's not just how can we help you get a contract here and there. Anyone can do that. Our whole claim to fame and where we're brilliant at is how you can build the impact into your business and build a B2B division, and not just get something here and there just to say I did it, but actually be serious about the impact that you can make in these organizations, whether it is corporate or nonprofit, universities, K-12 schools, whatever that looks like for you. You're more committed to the impact, and you know that the funds are going to follow the impact. Okay. So let's get into the second mistake that most entrepreneurs make when they are pitching for contracts. The next one is offering prepackaged solutions. I don't know how many of these that you've seen. So if you're hearing the other things, trust me, every time it's going to hit different. So tune in. I have to tell myself this often as well. So prepackaged solutions. Here's the thing about this. Again, mindset shift or thought beyond what these individual decision makers are experiencing and what they're looking for. So as a decision maker, I talked to you guys in the beginning about my sales career. I also have been the person that has bought from vendors, various services and things that we've needed outside of the organization. So typically what the buyers are thinking about is, okay, I have this project, I have this need. It's very specific. Again, everything about corporations, nothing is like wake up and do this, right? Nothing is reactive typically. Now, if something happens in the market, there could be some reactivity. However, especially in large organizations, change is like something that happens through a process. And so when you're thinking about their need and you're putting yourself in the shoes of a decision maker, again, they already have had several meetings around this particular topic. They've got it outlined on what they need, what it's probably going to cost, all the things. So if you are catching someone where they actually have an opportunity and they're actually looking for services in your area, they already know what they need. And it's typically not what you've already packaged up for your individual clients, or even if you have already packaged up a corporate offer, it may not even be exactly what you've packaged in that offer. So in that instance, what really would behoove you, or something that you would want to think of instead of offering prepackaged solutions, is this idea of co-creation. How can you still know what your prices are, what you charge for each element of what you do? I actually have it written over here on my board as I revised our rates to B2B and to corporate. I have like what my workshop rate is for in-person or virtual, what my keynote rate is, my consulting rate. All those things are written out because as I'm in conversation with people, I'm not listening so I could sell them my thing. That doesn't work. I'm listening to figure out where's the synergy between what they need and what I do. And I am developing a customized solution. It's seeming customized, right? Because when I put it together, it's going to be for them, but I'm gonna get to that in a minute. It's customized because it's addressing everything that they need in a particular package. There's no fluff. They don't need all the extras, all the this. I know ain't nobody offering this. I don't know, you might, but they don't need the Facebook groups and the this and that and all of that, right? We should all know that. But what it is offering them a clear, succinct solution, the fastest path, the easiest path to the solution that they're looking to get to. It does not need to include all of the razzle dazzle and the jazz. Leave the razzle dazzle and the jazz to how you show up and deliver your customer experience, your client experience. Leave the additives to that. But in terms of the deliverables and what you're offering, it should be very succinct and to the point, and only the things that's going to get them to the result. I know that that's more of a saying that's coming out in the B2C space, but it is imperative to be that clear in the B2B space, because if not, they're moving on to the next. Okay. So the other thing that I was going to say about offering the solutions and having it seem customized, but not, is because, again, you have your rates. Think about it like a menu. I actually was doing some thinking about this for our clients on how they can create, their own B2B menu. And no, you're not going to hand it over to clients and say, here's what you can get and pick and choose from here. The menu is a reference for you. So as you're going through your whole process and they're saying, hey, I need this workshop, or we're having this big leadership event, or, I have these individuals that I want to get coaching for, you're literally kind of like, taking that down. All right, we got 3 orders of coaching, 2 orders of keynote. Not, that's just being funny, but really you're thinking in that way, because when you get to the end of the conversation, you want to go ahead and map out a skeleton of what this will look like for them and be able to give them a starting price point if need be. If they don't know their budget, if they can't give you, what they spent on this last year, all the things, then you need to be able to say, okay, based on what we discussed, because I know my rates, I have been listening to you the entire time and notating what you need. This is what this is going to look like and what it's going to start at. That will create so much ease around the conversation. I know sometimes we may feel like, oh, we need to go off, we need to think about this and all the things. Think about it ahead of time. Know already what your time is worth. Know already what you're willing to deliver. Speak with your financial professionals. Shout out to Tremaine, who has helped me with this. But speak to your financial people so that you can understand at what price point should you be offering different levels of your services. If you're adding more hours, one thing that Charmaine taught me is if you're adding more hours to your particular services, then you need to start thinking about how you can up level your hourly rate depending upon what level of service and access that people have to you. I'm not a finance person, but I'm just telling you what you want to talk with your financial people about. You don't want to be giving the whole world to individuals for a low price. And then when you look at what you're delivering, you're only getting, $50 an hour or something like that. Didn't make sense. I know that firsthand because I just went through that experience when she walked me through that. And I'm like, oh, no, we're definitely not doing this. This is off the table. So sometimes the price may sound good, but when you really look at those deliverables and the hours that you're putting in, the price suddenly does not sound so good. So that's another thing that you want to think about with your original pricing, like with your standard line item pricing. You should already have those things worked out. When you are talking to individuals about their budget, you're just trying to see if it's a match. You know what your floor is, what you're willing to do this for, what your numbers look like in terms of your operations, your expenses, and all the things. So I can't do this for anything less than this, right? Again, it alleviates the pressure because now you're not trying to basically pull a number out your hind parts, as we would say, or, you're giving them this number that's really unrealistic. And then once you get the contract or the opportunity, you either can't deliver it in excellence or you're hating it every day like you're going back to a 9-to-5 job that you hate. I don't want that for y'all. So be very clear about your pricing so that you can start to develop these customized solutions, seemingly customized, and provide those to them. So that's the second mistake. The third mistake that I want to share with you guys today, which is really important to be sure you understand and don't fall into this trap, is offering to create a proposal before you get a soft yes. Now, I have been in this phase, like even as the veteran, even as someone who has been doing this for several years, just under a decade at this point, I still fell into this trap when I started to do this in my own business. And granted, there is no difference. The processes that I use then are the same, whether in business, whether working with a client, all the things, it's all the same. Still make this mistake though. Why? Because sometimes we get too excited, we lose our head, all the things happen. I don't know. Something happens sometimes where we just know we should have done something differently. And then we look back and we're like, this is where I could have went different here. So proposal before you get a soft yes. Here's the story real quick. One of my first contract opportunities, I remember having a discovery call with the decision maker, and it was a really good conversation, right? We were going through, I went through my process, everything that I shared with you guys today and everything that I do with clients are the same processes, right? So I did that, get to the end of the conversation. I believe it was like a leadership retreat or some type of event that they were having, right? And so we were talking about getting me out there to do a training within that event. And so when I got to the portion of talking with her about her budget and everything, she was just like, oh, go ahead and just send us the proposal. We'll figure it out. Like, it's all good. Da, 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 da. So rookie mistake. I was like, oh, okay, like cool. We're gonna just go ahead and do this. They'll figure it out, all the things. Now, the proposal that I sent to her, I know for a fact was not my prices of today, and nowhere near, I feel, what the market rate would have been at that time for the services that she was looking for. So send it over to her. And I remember like getting an immediate email back that she was like, oh, this isn't within our budget. We're going to have to look at doing this another time. And I was like, oh, again, a rookie mistake from the veteran. So that's why I say these mistakes are not above anybody. Anybody can make these mistakes no matter how long that you've been in the space, especially if you are, you're in the conversation, you think you got a good hunch on what's going on and you can kind of move past the process. Anytime you're trying to skip steps, that's when it goes all haywire. You should always follow the process, even if you get a hunch that, oh, I think this person is good, we can just go around this. Never do that. It never works. So anyway, I was devastated. I was like, what? Like, we had such a good conversation, connection. I felt like this was good to go. Why did I get this response? And then I had to remind myself, you skip steps, number one. And then number two, you didn't dive deeper into what that really looks like for them. There is a budget. So oftentimes corporations, whether it's nonprofits or whoever you're dealing with, they will try to give you that little sidestep. Oh, just send us what you got. No, there is no just send us what you got. Even like I said, if you feel like, oh, this person would be honest with me, or they have the money, or blah, 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 don't skip steps. I need a clear, soft yes before I go and create this proposal. A couple of things that goes into this. Obviously, it's your time to create it. It's also your energetics, right? It's also, and I'm not into energetics and all of that deeply. It's just, I know you'll understand what I'm saying. It's about the energy that you put into creating it, right? That suddenly takes a hit. You've put this thing together, you've had this conversation. The whole time you're excited, like this is a go, like you're on a high, right? And then you put it together, you send it to the person, and then there's an issue. It's like an immediate drop. It's kind of like, again, you're flying high and then all of a sudden the floor drops out or whatever, the wings fall off and you go straight catapulted to the ground. The problem with that is it's harder to jump back. It's harder to be, more resilient in instances like that because your ego is hit. You thought you knew, but then all of a sudden you realize you didn't. And now you're ruminating over that and trying to figure out why, all the things. Am I speaking or no? Because I know that this was me. So In that scenario, how you protect your energy is being super clear on your process. Don't get off the phone with anyone if you don't know that this is a soft yes and they're ready to move forward. If they're just looking for pricing, like, create a space where people can be transparent and honest about where they are. Are you looking to move forward on this, or is this something that you're just browsing for at the time and you're just trying to get an idea of pricing? Because I can send you that. Or I can just tell you right now because I already know my rates. So I can just tell you what the pricing is now. I don't need to do a proposal for that. And then you can explain to them. Our proposals are only valid for whatever time period you put on it, 3 or 7 days or something like that. So if we're not looking to move forward within that time period, what's best for us now is to discuss what the potential pricing could look like if you want to be able to take that back to your meetings or have discussions with other decision makers. And then when you are ready to move forward in this particular time frame, then we can prepare a proposal for you that helps us be able to provide you with the most up-to-date price points, as well as give you an idea of what our capacity is. We typically do not go beyond that. So having those things really solid and in place and be ready to share that is going to help you out so much in this process, because it'll keep you from getting ghosted. It will keep you from getting off the phone thinking one thing and they're thinking another. We need to be very clear that where we're moving forward in here. And sometimes you have to push back, right? Sometimes you have to really, stand tall and be like, no, we're not getting off this call like this. It's got to be either this or this. Is yes or no. Let me know what it is so I can go. I think Myron Golden says something like that. So making sure that you have that in place is going to help you be able to protect your energy, be very clear, keep yourself from getting ghosted and all the things, which things still do happen, right? I can give you all these mistakes and share these things. There are so many different nuances that could happen. But my hope is that at least with these 3 and the others that I have in another video, will give you a good, solid structure to how you're going to approach getting these contracts so that you're not making one of these mistakes. Okay. So I've talked y'all to death enough today. I done told y'all my stories. I done told y'all the mistakes that I made and how it has cost me many of opportunities. And on the same token, how it's allowed me to generate millions of dollars over the years of my career, and probably even close to billions at this point, quite honestly, if I added it all up. And so the same token of the losses helped set me up for the wins. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this video. So as I promised in the very beginning, this is just 3 mistakes. I have an entire training where I go through 7 mistakes most entrepreneurs make when they're pitching for contracts. And actually the 5th mistake, although these 3 were really good, the 5th mistake is the one that's going to shock you for real. So that video is going to be something that you want to check out in order to get all of those steps. So if you want access to that, all I need you to do on this video is comment, I want it, and we will send that video over to you, okay? So that you can get the full breadth of all these mistakes and make sure that you're not following in this trap. All right, so that being said, that's the end of the formal training. As always, you guys know that I make an invitation to you at the end of these calls, so we're gonna move into this. Invitation for today. There's always an invitation on the table to work with us in some capacity, right? Now, the main thing that I've been finding out and having conversations with you guys is that you want to understand, kind of where you fall and figure out what it is that you should be offering, where's your best opportunity in terms of people who are actively looking for your services. How can you take referrals that you've been getting and turn that into consistent business, all the things. And so we developed something for you guys to be able to help you along that journey. And I am excited about it. I just published it earlier this week. I have not shared it, so you guys are the first people to hear it. And we created a corporate contracts readiness quiz. So, y'all, in 5 minutes after you take the quiz, you'll be able to understand exactly where you are on the corporate contract spectrum and understand exactly what next steps you need to take, along with several training resources that we have curated specifically for your particular result. So You'll be able to find out, hey, am I new at this? Am I a novice? And as a novice, what do I need to focus on in particular in order to move my journey forward? All the way up to the person who already might be getting consistent contracts and figuring out, how can I take this to the next level? So I want you guys to dive into that course. I'm out to that quiz. I'm super excited to see what your results are and to be able to deliver you the resources on the back end that we've developed. The video that I just mentioned a moment ago, the 7 mistakes, is a resource that is a part of taking that quiz. So you'll get access to that anyway. But you can also view it right now if you just want to type in, I want it. So here's where you can find the quiz. And I know on Facebook it does not show, but basically you're going to go to kirstenjallen.com/quiz. And I will make sure that that is in the comments for you once we wrap here. Take the 5-minute corporate contract. And whoever is on, if you want to type that in for us, I know sometimes some people are so gracious to type that in on Facebook for me. For some reason, when I'm on StreamYard, it does not put comments into Facebook, which is really weird. So it's kirstenjallen.com/quiz. That will be where you can take that and get your amazing results and then be able to get the resources that we have behind that. Okay. All righty, guys. So take your quiz and let's see what your results are and see how we can continue to support you in this journey. All right. Until next week, I will talk to y'all soon.